Hey everyone, my name is Mike. I'm one of the campus pastors here at Eagle Brook. As we go into Thanksgiving this week, I'm thanking God for this church, for Eagle Brook, for the people that I get to work with day in, day out, for the mission of reaching people for Christ that we share together. I'm also very thankful for you. You're the reason we do what we do, so that you, your family, your friends have a place to grow in your faith, to connect with others, and to have that sense of belonging and purpose. I want you to know this next weekend, we're going to start a whole new series, and it's all about how to love as Jesus loved, to see people as God sees them, to meet people on their own terms, with their own unique personalities and needs. And I really hope to see you in person, or you can also watch it online. Also, during this 4-week series, you're going to have a chance to go a little bit deeper. On the Eagle Brook app, you're going to have devotionals, Bible readings, prayer suggestions, and ideas of how to put love into action. So just go download the app, give it a try. It's going to be really helpful. Hey, right now it's time for today's message. Ryan Lake's going to bring the final message in our series. This is your moment.
Welcome to Eagle Brook Church. We are so glad that you're here. We're looking forward to that new series next weekend. But this pre-Thanksgiving weekend, I get the privilege of continuing our series. This is your moment. This is your moment. And the first week we looked at what Jason talked about and how we can prepare for the moment. Prepare for the moment. And we've been looking at an Old Testament book, the book of Esther. Now, when he talked about preparing for a moment, like we all have these moments in life where we're just going, okay, are we ready to really step into this moment? I remember when I was preparing to propose to my wife. Now, I had to do a lot of preparation because, well, I had overheard my wife tell a friend she thought it would be cool to get engaged and married on the same day, and I had no idea what that meant. So I began planning our wedding behind her back over the course of 2 years. Now, in preparing for that, there was a lot of preparation for this moment, and there were so many things that, well, could go wrong. Number one, she could say no. That'd be bad, right? That'd be really, really bad. If you said, hey, will you marry me? Will you marry me today? And she's like, I'm not gonna marry you at all. You're like, that's not good, okay? And then the other thing that could go wrong was just a million different things. And some things did go wrong. Number one, her flight got canceled. Whether you're doing a surprise wedding or a regular wedding, you need the bride to be there for a wedding to happen. You know what I mean? So that was problematic. The other thing that went wrong is I had prepared an outdoor wedding. And then Hollywood, Florida, where we got married, actually experienced one of the largest monsoons in the area that it had ever experienced, okay? Literally, we saw a Maserati underwater. I thought, poor guy, but he got money, he'll be all right. Now, nevertheless, you know, we do this deal, and you're just like, man, we were able to make adjustments, and we were able to go indoors at the venue that we were at, and it was a moment that we prepped for. That, well, I prepared a little bit more than she did, but nevertheless, when we rolled in the dress, hairstylist, and makeup artist, then we had a moment. I think all of us have some moment in our life that, well, that comes, and we have to ask ourselves, are we prepared for it? And that's the question that Jason proposed. He goes, hey, are we ready for the moment you might meet your future spouse, the moment you're given an opportunity to leave, the moment you get an interview for a job you've always wanted? Will you be prepared? Even if you don't know when and where your moment is going to happen. That's Esther. In the book of Esther, we actually learn about 5 main characters. There's King Xerxes, Queen Vashti, Esther, Haman, and Mordecai. Mordecai is Esther's cousin. Haman is King Xerxes' right hand man. And this story is set over 100 years after the Babylonian exile of Israelites from their land. And while some Jews did return to Jerusalem, all of them did not. And so the book of Esther is about a Jewish community living in Susa. This is the capital city of the ancient Persian Empire. So in the first 4 chapters, just to give you a summary of what has happened in the book of Esther, King Xerxes throws a party, and he throws lots of parties in Esther, by the way, and he wants to show off the beauty of his queen Vashti, okay? Now, just so you know what the scripture says about Queen Vashti is that she was lovely to look at. She was lovely to look at. I'm guessing she had a few Instagram followers, okay? She was lovely to look at. But she refused to be a trophy queen. She's like, listen, you ain't gonna just bring me to a party just so you can show me off. No, I'm not doing it. So King Xerxes like, oh, you don't wanna play? Cool. We're gonna throw a beauty pageant and we're going to replace you. She's like, what? And so Esther enters the beauty pageant, prepares for months to get into this pageant, and she wins. Now, Esther chapter 1 says that Queen Vashti was lovely to look at. But Esther chapter 2 says that Esther was lovely to look at and had a beautiful figure. Apparently, Esther had a few more followers on Instagram, according to the scriptures. I'm just telling you what the scripture says, okay? So she went through this preparation process to find favor, to be found and favored by King Xerxes. And she was raised by her cousin Mordecai with no parents in the picture. So she's a Jew living in a foreign land, and now she has risen to this royal position, but nobody knows that she's Jewish. So despite the fact that the decks have been stacked against her, she is in this position. Now, the other thing that's happening in the first 4 chapters in the book of Esther is Haman has been promoted by the king. And so when he is promoted, has this party where people are bowing down to him, except one person, Mordecai. Mordecai's like, I'm not bowing down to nobody. And so Haman's like, who is this Mordecai guy, and what is happening? Why is he not bowing down? And they get word and go, hey, he's a Jew. He ain't gonna bow down to you. He only bows down to the one true God. You're just a dude. And you're number 2. You're not even number 1 asking people to bow down for you. So Mordecai's like, I'm just not doing it. And so this makes Haman so mad. So he puts plans together to wipe out all the Jews. Haman actually gets the king to make a decree about it that says, hey, on this specific day, we're going to wipe out all the Jews. Now, the king accepts this because he had been drinking, okay? He drinks a lot in this book, okay? So you'll find out that he does drink a lot, and so he makes this decision intoxicated. And so now, what this does for Queen Esther and Mordecai is it puts them in a position because they're Jewish, but the king doesn't know that. And so they're in this, what are we gonna do? What in the world are we gonna do now that we know that our annihilation is just around the corner? And then Mordecai has this iconic statement to his cousin. And he says, who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Who knows? Who knows? I think there's a little who knows in all of our lives. Who knows is really our potential. Is this potentially our time, our moment? Could it be that we were all born for such a time as this? And I know it's easy to dog the times. Oh, these are terrible times, or it's the end times. The times. And I know we're living in times where there is a lot of people who are frustrated and angry and divided and politically charged, racially charged, depressed, hurting. You know what? It's easy to look around and just go, man, things are not good, but part of me just believes we were born for such a time as this. Who knows? Could it be that you were placed at your job for such a time as this? Who knows? Could it be that you live in your neighborhood, that you joined that team, that you started going back to school for such a time as this? Who knows? You wanna know who I think knows? God. I think God knows. I think it's our time. I think it's all of our times. I think every generation, if you're in your 60s, I think it's your time. If you're a teenager, I think it's your time. If you're having a midlife crisis, I still think it's your time. I love what Psalm says. It says, but the plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations. Whatever generation you find yourself in this weekend, God's got a plan and a purpose for every single one of us. And I know that there's a lot of negative talk about Gen Z. But I want to encourage the next generation today. Dear Gen Z, dear teenager, dear student ministry, ready or not, you are the future. And I know you have challenges, and I know you have pressures that maybe older generations can't always understand. I know that you have an enemy of your soul that would love to use media, music, relationships, money, and drugs to wreck your life. But you were born for such a time as this. You were born to be different. You were born to be set apart. So walk different, talk different, spend different, date different, study different, play different, work different, give different. Surrender every ounce of your soul to Jesus Christ and live different. Refuse to be a statistic of your generation and go against the grain if you have to. Esther did. You can too. We all can. And I want to look at how we can do that together this weekend. Esther didn't just prepare for her moment, she seized her moment. I want to encourage us with 3 things that I believe can help us seize our moment. Number 1, understand why our moment matters. I think we have to understand why our moment matters. Esther's moment would mean liberation for Jews. If she speaks to the king and he grants her request, her moment could help her people avoid annihilation. Who knows? Your moment might mean liberation for your family. Who knows, your moment might be at a Thanksgiving table. You might tell a family member about Jesus for the first time. You might share your testimony. You could change somebody's life. I've found that when I understand why these moments of courage matter, I'm more likely to seize them. What I find peculiar, and actually what I love about the book of Esther, is God is actually not mentioned in the whole book. He's not mentioned in the whole book. There's no burning bush. There's no Red Sea moment. There's no evidence of divine instruction in the entire book. Esther nor Mordecai ever used the God card. They never had a, well, God told me moment. They just kept doing the right thing for God's people. I think sometimes we are waiting for a sign from heaven before we're willing to take the next God step and seize our moment. But if your moment has a compelling why to it, you don't always need a thus saith the Lord to move forward because your why is compelling enough. I loved hearing Jason talk about the vision for Eagle Brook Church in the future and what it means for the Midwest. And some people are going, well, why are we doing that? I'm going to help more people in the Midwest know and experience the love of Jesus Christ. And I've actually heard from some people that live in some of the areas that Eagle Brook might have locations in the future, and they are so excited to be able to invite their friends and colleagues to a church that's close to their community. I mean, haven't we all had a moment here at church, maybe watching online, where something was said that really just clicked for you? I mean, haven't we all heard a song at some point that just helped us pull through a tough week? I mean, here's the deal. Our compelling why is we want other people to have their moment too. I think sometimes we think that our moment is only about us, that it's just our moment, but there is someone on the other side of your moment whose life could be changed if we're willing to seize it. A whole group of people were on the other side of Esther's moment. Who knows who could be on the other side of my moment? Who knows who could be on the other side of yours? The second thing that I think that's important for us to seize our moment is number 2, be willing to take risk. Be willing to take risk. Esther did. And we see that in Esther chapter 5. It says, then the king asked, what is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even if up to half the kingdom, it will be given you. If it pleases the king, replied Esther, let the king together with Haman come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. So let's understand Esther's risk a little bit. Esther's assignment at first glance seems like no big deal. Tell the king, you're Jewish, don't kill us. It seems pretty simple, but that's not how it works, okay? First off, in that culture, you could not approach the king without permission. You had to set up a meeting request, okay? She had to send them a calendar invite, and then Haman and the king had to accept that calendar invite. And even how she does that has to be done tactfully. One wrong move, and she could be put to death. Nevertheless, she goes through the proper protocol and says, hey, I requested an audience with these two very powerful men just to request an audience with them just a little bit later. And so she takes the risk. I think we should too. I think we should try some stuff and just see what happens. I remember the first time I got a call from Bob Mayer, and he said, Ryan, we're looking for a teaching pastor. I said, well, what happened to the last guy? You always want to ask that, okay? If they're hiring, you need to find out what happened to the last guy, all right? Because you can be in trouble, okay? He said, well, he's taking my job. I said, where are you going? He said, hunting. I said, fair enough. That makes sense. He said, hey, I'm not sure what all you have going on in Dallas, but would you consider moving up to Minnesota and joining the team? And I said, man, Bob, actually, I do have a lot going on in Dallas, but hey, I'd be willing to fly up there a bunch, and I think it could be great. Bob paused briefly, and he replied, yeah, that's not gonna work for us. We just don't do that. And then I had a moment to think about what was my response going to be to his response. I don't want to be respectful, obviously, but at the same time, I was feeling kind of risky. So I responded with, I know you guys don't do that. But what if you had me up for a weekend and tried it out anyway? And he did. And I'm grateful that he and Jason were willing to take a risk and say, hey, let's see what happens. And it's so awesome because Jason had a time where he stepped into something new. And that allowed us to do something a little new. And we've been having a lot of fun doing some new stuff. I mean, one of my favorite quotes, I know it's not the Bible, but it should be. It says, it's from We Bought a Zoo. Have you seen this? Okay. It says, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just literally 20 seconds of just embarrassing bravery. And I promise you, something great will come of it. Oh, you ought to try something this holiday season. I mean, where might you need 20 seconds of courage today? I mean, where might you need just a little bit of courage just to step out of your comfort zone just a little bit? Now, the third thing that I think we have to do if we're really gonna seize our moment is we gotta trust God with the result. I think we have times in our life where we only want to seize our moment if we know how it's going to work out. Esther did not, but she went for it anyway. Haman, the king's right-hand man, had this evil plan, right, to wipe out the Jews. The king doesn't even know that his new queen is a Jew. So Esther sends the calendar invite to both Haman and the king. They accept. And then here's how that plays out. It says, so the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet. And as they were drinking wine on the second day, the king again asked, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. Now, I want you to catch that. You saw, this was the second day. You ever been to a 2-day party? Like, this thing is going on for a while, okay? They are partying, okay? And then it says this, in verse 3, it says, then Queen Esther answered, this is her moment. If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, but because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. King Xerxes asked Queen Esther, who is he? Where is he? The man who has dared to do such a thing. Esther said, an adversary, an enemy, this vile Haman. Now, the king, he's had a lot to drink. So when he hears this news, he goes into a drunken rage and he orders that Haman be executed. Now, it seems like a victory on the surface, but Haman's execution didn't solve the problem of the decree to kill all of the Jews. Because once a king makes a decree, you can't reverse a decree. So Esther and Mordecai have to come up with a new plan to do a counter decree. That's what it was called. So you make a decree, okay, I'm gonna make a counter decree to counter the decree that you had put in place in the first place. So in this decree, Jews were ordered and given permission to actually defend themselves in battle and to destroy anyone who plotted to kill them. And when the day came for the decree to wipe out all of the Jews, they did defend themselves. And they did triumph over their enemies. All because Queen Esther had the courage to seize her moment. When my wife and I got engaged and married on the same day, the documentary went viral, and we had an opportunity to go on a couple of TV shows. We got to go on the Good Morning America show, the Today Show. Then we got to go on the Queen Latifah show. Hey, right, so we were like, okay, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a lot of fun. So when we went on the Queen Latifah show, the Queen and my wife had a surprise for me. So my wife directed me to the screen in the back of the studio, and on the screen came the late Hall of Famer, Kobe Bryant. He said, hey, Ryan. At that moment, I began to break down his words like it was a Bible verse. He said, hey. Hey is a greeting that Americans use whenever they want to talk to their friends. Ryan, well, that's me. So me and Kobe Bryant must be friends. I lost my mind. I said, what in the world is going on? I almost blacked out for a minute, okay? I was like, are you serious? How does he know my name? And so he continued in the video, and he invites me out to Staples Center. He says, just come hang out with me and the Lakers. And I just looked at my wife and I said, baby, you are winning the game. This is amazing. And so I got to pick whatever Lakers game I wanted to go to. So we picked a Lakers game that was 3 months from the recording of the Queen Latifah show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really had to figure out what in the world me and Kobe Bryant were gonna talk about. And I had to figure out what I was gonna wear. Do I wear all gold? That's weird. Do I wear all purple? That's weirder. Like, don't do that. And so I'm just like, okay, what are we gonna talk about? And long story short, I came to the conclusion that the only way that me and Kobe Bryant would have an engaging conversation is if I was in the NBA. Now, you may not be able to decipher how good at basketball I am or am not, and you may not even know what my true basketball pedigree is. The number one thing people say to me when they meet me is, oh my gosh, you're so much taller than I thought. And I'm going, do I look 5'3" up here to you? I'm 6'3", okay? A whole foot taller than whatever it is you're thinking right now based off of the depth perception of these cameras, okay? Now, in terms of my basketball pedigree, what you need to know is I was an All-American in college. Now, the college I went to, North Central University, was D3-ish. Let me explain the ish. When I played, our D3 status was pending, which left us in the NCCAA, which stands for National Christian College Athletics Association, which simply means amongst Christians, I was amazing, okay? Church league MVP all day of the week, okay? That's what you need to know. Nevertheless, I never pursued the pros. I instantly went into ministry and business and just started doing my deal, but I would always go to NBA games or watch on TV and just be like, oh, man, I could do that. He can go, I would totally do this. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna be in the NBA. So when I talk to Kobe, we're gonna talk about work. That's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be awesome. So I started getting back in All-American shape. Oh, I was feeling good. Oh, it was great. And then one of my friends got cut from the Chicago Bulls, and he comes back to Dallas, and we start working out with each other, and I'm 6'3", 200 pounds. He's 6'5", 245, a little bit of a gap between us, okay? So we started playing one-on-one, and he destroys me 5 games in a row, about 11-6, a clear margin. And I thought, if they cut him, there is no way they're gonna give a guy like me a shot. So I went home. I was just like, man, I'm just gonna go meet Kobe, take a picture like a normal fan, and just move on with my life. And then the next day, I woke up and I thought, why did I just do that? Why did I just give up so fast? Why did I allow my fear of failure to keep me from seizing a moment? How did I know that I would fail if I had never even tried? Why would we give ourselves failing grades on tests we've never taken? And then I thought about every single person that you and I look up to, follow, admire, and read about, and they all have one thing in common. They all failed. So why would we run from the very thing that made them who they are? So I decided to do a documentary called Chasing Failure, where I would present people with a question that could help them step outside of their comfort zone. And the question is simple, it's this: what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? So when I met Kobe Bryant, I told him about this project, and I told him I was going to be in the NBA. Now, telling you is cool, but telling somebody that's actually in the NBA is a little different, okay? It's just a little bit different. Kobe's a stern guy, real focused, staring at me, sizing me up. I'm like, we're not playing one-on-one right now. And you just look at me, talk to me now. What do you think? He just looked at me and he goes, yeah, man, do it. I went, did you just give me the Nike slogan, just do it? Like, really? Come on, Kobe, you're supposed to tell me how hard it is. You're supposed to give me all the reasons not to even try. You were supposed to tell me about 4 a.m. workouts and strict diets and how to deal with criticism, but instead he just told me to just do it. And so it was other people's time to have their time with Kobe, and so I just said, oh man, let me just kind of like sneak out the room just a little bit, and as I'm walking out the room, Kobe Bryant goes, hey, Ryan. I said, yes, Mr. Bryant. He said, make sure you send me that documentary. I said, is this where we should exchange numbers right now? No? You want my people to reach out to your people? I don't actually have people, so I'm gonna just call your people and email them. You got it. We'll figure it out, bro. Don't even worry about it. So now that Kobe Bryant is checking his phone every day for my documentary, I actually had to figure out how to get an NBA workout. For those of you that don't understand, the NBA, it's the National Basketball Association. These are the top 450 basketball players in the world. It is definitely not a church league. There is a particular protocol to getting into the NBA. You need to go to an actual NCAA school, not a D3-ish. They're not letting that slide, okay? So I had to figure it out. So I did this thing we all do when we don't know what to do. I Googled it. And I found the public relations emails for every single NBA team on a website. And I started emailing them one by one. I started with the Boston Celtics. I said, dear Celtics, I think you got Celtics fans all across the city of Boston that are afraid to fail, and I don't think that they should be. Can you imagine if we took their dreams off the shelf together and you gave a complete stranger off the streets an opportunity to work out for your basketball team? Here's the deal, I'll probably fail. But what if I don't? There's only one way for us to find out, and that's for you to let me try. I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, looking for failure. Sincerely, Ryan Leake. Now, I hit send, shut my laptop as fast as I could because it felt illegal. I said, who does this? This is crazy. And then 30 minutes later, the Celtics wrote me back, and they say, hey, Ryan, great idea. It's just not for us. Best of luck with your future endeavors. I'm like, really? I'm failing at failing. Who does that? You know, I'm like, this is terrible. I'm like, I seized a moment, but I was left disappointed. I felt rejected. I felt dumb. I'm looking at this email like, Ryan, what is wrong with you? But then I thought, did the Boston Celtics just email you back? Like, that's kind of cool. Like, that you're a stranger. Like, that's amazing. So then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make a documentary about being told no by all 30 NBA teams, and we're gonna see what I could learn from being told no by 30 organizations, and you would feel so bad for me at my laptop. They told me no, they told me no, they told me no. And then on my 5th email to the Phoenix Suns, they said, on a Friday, they called me. Hey, Ryan, it's the Suns. I said, hello? They said, hey, we love this idea. Come on Monday. I said, like this Monday? They said, yeah, bring your camera crew. I said, yes, of course, yes. Because anybody doing a documentary obviously has a camera crew. See y'all Monday. I ain't had no camera crew. I had a homie from the church named Chuck who had a video camera. That's what I had. I said, Chuck, we got to get on a plane. We got to go to Phoenix. It's going to be fun. He said, man, if I'm taking off work, I need to know why we're going to Phoenix. I said, why you always got questions, Chuck? Stop. Just have some fun. Take some risks. Live life a little bit, Chuck. He said, for real, man, why are we going to Phoenix? I said, man, I didn't even tell you about it, man, but, man, I'm doing this thing on failure, and I was emailing some people. I thought everybody was going to say no, but then the son said, man, I'm trying out for the Phoenix Suns on Monday. He said, okay, for real, man, why are we really going to Phoenix? I said, dude, I'm really trying out for the Phoenix Suns. He goes, you think the Phoenix Suns are going to allow you and me to show up at their practice court? You're going to run around and play basketball, and they're just going to let me film it. I said, man, that's what Julie said on the phone. We got to go find out if she's a liar. Let's go. Now, if you want to see how this played out, you can go to chasingfailure.com and look at the Chasing Failure documentary. Spoiler alert, I failed, okay? Like if you want to know how it ends, I failed, and let me tell you something. It was one of the most liberating days of my life. See, at this tryout, I fit in. If you were there, you wouldn't have noticed me. But that's the point. NBA players stand out, and I did not. At one point, they wanted me to do a 3-minute drill. This is how the 3-minute drill works. It's just pure running, okay? You start on one end of the court, and you have to run to the other end. Once you get down there, that's 1. Once you get back, that's 2. The goal was to get 30 in 3 minutes. That means you have to cover 94 feet in 6 seconds, 30 times in 3 minutes. 3 minutes may not sound like a long time to you, but you should try it after service and just tell me how it works out in the parking lot for you, okay? Trust me, it's an eternity when you are running for your life, okay? So I get on the line, and they're like, okay, Ryan, like, are you ready? I'm like, ready, set, go. Boom! I took off running like the wind, and all of a sudden, the NBA player shouts out, woo, started off way too fast, brother, way too fast. And I'm like, thank you for that advice right now, okay? So I got 13 within the first 90 seconds. And then at the 90-second mark, I needed all the help that every professional could offer a person. I needed psychiatric help. I needed a pastor. I needed a therapist. I needed paramedics. I couldn't feel my legs. I hit every kind of wall you could think of. And I was completely embarrassed in front of all these NBA players. I'm thinking, Ryan, who decides to have their most embarrassing moment and invites their friend Chuck to film it? This is crazy. You're out of your mind. You failed. You're not good enough. And at one point, I'm just hobbling up and down the court because that's all I could do. And I keep hobbling past this particular logo. Normally, I'm hobbling past the Lifetime Fitness logo, but on this particular Monday afternoon, I'm hobbling past the Phoenix Suns logo. And I asked myself this question, Ryan, how did you get here? And I realized chasing failure took me further than chasing success ever did. I had tried many things in my life, but not one of those things ever landed me on an NBA practice court. And that was the day the fear of failure was broken off of my life. You know, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just literally 20 seconds of just embarrassing bravery, and I promise you, something great will come of it. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what I know. NBA teams, they don't give workouts to strangers who can write a compelling email. But I found that when I seize the moment, sometimes they make an exception. And some of us will never know if we never try. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think God wanted me to be in the NBA, but I do believe he wanted me to try. And I had to trust him with the results. And I've seen a ripple effect of that decision have an impact on a lot of people just from watching a documentary on YouTube. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What moment would you seize if you knew how it would work out? What would you try? Would you go back to school? Would you apply for a job that maybe you're unqualified for? Would you write a book? Would you start a podcast? Would you start your own YouTube channel? Would you propose a new idea at your job? Would you invite a friend to church? Would you share your faith with a colleague? Here's the deal. You You may not start a business this week or try out for the Vikings, but I think every one of us has to ask ourselves, what moment does God want us to be ready for and seize when the opportunity presents itself? That's the story of Esther. And I pray it's the story of us. So in summary, I want us to understand why our moment matters. Some of us are thinking, I don't have a thing. I don't have the thing that I would do if I knew I couldn't fail. But does somebody else in your life have a thing that maybe you were put on the planet to help them with? Ladies and gentlemen, we're not always Esther in the story. Sometimes we're Mordecai. Sometimes we're just called to come along somebody and say, hey, you were born for this. You keep fighting. Let me support you. Let me help you. We all have a moment. We just often don't know why it matters. The second thing is I want you to be willing to take a risk and to try some things. And thirdly, I just want you to trust God with the results. I believe there are so many people watching today's message that God has been prompting them to do something. I don't know what your moment is, but I know what can happen when it comes. A lot of what ifs, a lot of why me's. What if it goes awful? But what if it goes amazing? Why you? Why not you? Who knows? Maybe you have come to this position for such a time as this. God, I thank you so much for Eagle Brook Church. God, I pray whatever opportunities you put in front of us, whatever moment you put in front of us, God, I pray that you would help us prepare for and seize the moment. May we know that we were put on this planet for such a time as this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we'll start a brand new series, Love Has a Name. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next weekend.